time, I'd like to call to order the Muskego-Norway School District Annual Meeting for the school year 2019. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Buckmaster. I'm the president of the Muskego-Norway Board of Education. With me here today is Terry Boyer, Tracy Blair, Cassandra Baus, Bob Bowman, Eric Schrader, Brett Hyde, and we all welcome you to the annual meeting. This is the 60th meeting of the Muskego-Norway School District. The formal budget hearing is a part of this annual meeting as required by Wisconsin Statute 65.9 sub 4. The qualifications for voting at the annual meeting as established by Wisconsin statutes include the following. A citizen of the you need to be a citizen of the United States, 18 years of age or older, a resident of the school district for at least 10 days before any election. That's part of Wisconsin statute section 6.04. And I already introduced our school board members and myself. Item 2.
Yep, the election of the chairperson. Call for nominations.
I, Robert Bowman, nominate Chris Buckmaster to serve as chairperson.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Okay, Chris Buckmaster will be our meeting chairperson.
Thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to item B, I'd like to appoint Eric Schrader as this evening's parliamentarian. Do you accept?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. On to item 3, President's Report. So our school board supports the continued funding strategy that is grounded in evidence along with community support, which we need to design, build, maintain, and operate our schools. Our first board goal is responsible resource stewardship, and it's really to assist in the process of aligning potential funding sources to our prioritized master plan needs. Projects in this line include, or projects with the potential for success include those that have a high number of users, address a significant safety issue, affect student learning required by state law, or have demonstrated community support throughout the years. Our board goal number 2, participate in the process of researching and considering equity gaps within our system that impact learning for students with IEPs. What makes our teachers true educators is their acknowledgement, appreciation, and respect of students' differences. Students' diverse intelligence, talent, skills, interests, and backgrounds enrich our schools and develop life skills. Many of today's classrooms are much more diverse than ever before, including students with IEPs. The school board as a whole supports all initiatives that are able to close these gaps, further preparing our students to learn, grow, and succeed. And our third goal for our district board is board governance. Contribute to the education for employment, the E4E, work in building student experience, opportunities, and business partnerships. The purpose of this E4E is to ensure that our school district supports our students with career awareness, exploration, preparation, planning, and decision making. In summary, the Muskego-Norway School District over the years has focused on growth and improvement of academic achievement, maintained programming, used resources creatively with fiscal stability, strengthened our community our partnerships that promote our school district and the city of Muskego, continue to fund building and grounds to provide inviting and innovative educational atmosphere for our students and teachers, invest in technology to provide equitable access for all of our students, and we distinguish ourselves as a world-class school district to remain competitive in southeastern Wisconsin, in our state, and across the nation, preparing our students for any pathway of success that they choose. Those, ladies and gentlemen, are the board goals for the school year 2019-2020. And it's my pleasure to introduce the individual responsible for administering these goals and the operations across our entire school district, our superintendent, Dr. Kelly Thompson.
Very much for that introduction. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this evening with us to go over a number of aspects of our organization, celebrate some things, and then set the course for this current year. So just a little bit about the district performance. We have a number of items that we make sure to update each year. We have a district report card, which will be coming out in November. Our 2019 Fast Facts, that once we get our report card, we'll be kind of finish up our Fast Facts, and that will also be available. We have the Eye on the Goal dashboard and the strategic plan dashboard. The strategic plan dashboard used to be the quality report. All four of those items are available on our district performance page on our website, and so we welcome and encourage anybody who's interested in knowing all the details about our system to look at any and all of those documents as they are placed up, and there's history there as well. What's awesome about many of these items, they go down to the building level, so each school will have an Eye on the Goal dashboard, each school will have a strategic plan dashboard, or a school dashboard, I should say. We have two strategic plan documents that really drive what we do. The first is the long range, or the long-term strategic plan, which is a 2018 to the 2023. And then annually, so this is our second year of our 5-year strategic plan, and that's called the Eye on the Goal. And you should have an insert, and it's also just right within the document, but that insert is our Eye on the Goal for this year, for 1920. And the difference is that these have, our strategic plan has the metrics that we're going to be measuring, and the Eye on the Goal has actual specific SMART goals outlined and articulated that actually cascade down to each building and department within our system to keep us accountable and make sure that we're on our way to reaching our goals. So the front page of our annual Eye on the Goal strategic plan looks a little different each year. We have a different icon that kind of separates it out from each year. But the actual pillars of the strategic plan stay the same. We always are looking at continuous improvement, and our 3 pillars of sound stewardship, of resources and strong community support, exemplary student learning and engagement, and highly effective personnel and expert teaching, those don't change. Those stay the same each and every year. And then we have lots of measures that we make sure that we're tracking, and that you would see in our strategic plan dashboard. But in our Eye on the Goal, we take out the most important ones that we want to make sure that we are tracking for the year. And so as I indicated, these are the SMART goals. So we'll have an employee engagement goal written, specific student engagement goal written. We have parent satisfaction and others that are listed there. So just to kind of, some people ask, well, how do you know our long-term goal under exemplary student learning engagement is to be a top 3 district of student achievement in Waukesha County? And people might ask, like, well, how do you know? What are the indicators you're looking at? So you saw back here that we have a lot of things that we're tracking under students. So there's a number of things we track. But here's some examples of what we'd be looking at to see if we're a top 3 district or on our way to that. So this is 3rd through 8th grade achievement on the forward exam. So what we do is we compare ourselves to the Arrowhead feeders, so we kind of bring them all together, and the remainder of the Waukesha County school districts, and we look to see, are we in the top 3, or are we, the short-term goal is to be at or above median as we move toward being consistently in the top 3. So this is an example of English language arts, and 3rd through 8th grade, our achievement is meeting that long-range plan, our goal. And in math, it's the same. We are tied for 2nd place in Waukesha County. Students with IEPs, 3rd through 8th grade, as Chris was mentioning in his president report around our focus around students with disabilities who have IEPs. We make sure to track this as well. We are within the at or above median on our way toward getting to our long-term goal of being a top 3 district for both reading and math. ACT, these are results of the 11th grade ACT. Students can take ACT all throughout their high school, even in middle school. But we track the 11th grade ACT scores that students take here at the high school, and that's the same across the state. That is the state assessment now. So for ACT for all students, we are at or above median, and so that's our short-term goal. And students with IEPs, actually we're number 1 in the county right now for students with disabilities on the ACT 11th grade. Highly effective personnel, that's the one of the other 3 pillars, and our long-term goal is to be a destination workplace. And so what are some of the indicators that we are looking at in that realm? We look at staff retention. Our goal is to be at 90% or higher, and you can see this is administration, support staff, and teachers. And over the last 3 years, we have been able to achieve that 90 percentile for the staff retention, with the exception of support staff back in 16-17. So we've been putting forth concerted efforts to ensure that our support staff are feeling valued, and we're supporting their retention very strategically. And so we've seen an increase, and now we are above that 90% retention rate. And then the other component is our top workplace. When we're acknowledged in the Milwaukee metro area as a top workplace, that is an indication to us that we are a destination workplace or on the way to achieving that. The third pillar, you might recall, is sound stewardship of resources and strong community support. Julie will be going through lots of information related to that, but one indicator for us to be a mission-aligned, having a mission-aligned budget is our tax levy, and the history of this being the 9th year of having a decreasing levy is an indication to us that we are being sound stewards of our community resources. So just to highlight some of the areas that we're really putting a great deal of effort into this year, we are re-articulating our curriculum so that we ensure we have a guaranteed and viable curriculum throughout K-12. We are putting a lot of effort, energy, and resources into professional learning communities and supporting teachers working and educators working together in teams around student learning. This is our 3rd year of focused energy around 6 high leverage practices. They are these 6 high leverage practices. And that was our commitment to educators, that was what we were going to focus in on for 3 years, those instructional strategies, and get really good at them. That's around that teacher expertise component of our strategic plan. Chris also mentioned the education for employment, so that is part of our efforts as well. Student experiences, and we have 6 levels of student experiences that we want 100% of our students to participate in, ranging from job fairs and professional panels all the way to training and certifications, micro-internships, and things like that. So we're building partnerships and ensuring that our academic and career plans align to all of that work. Chris mentioned achievement gap. That's another focus area for us. Our safety grant requirements. Over the last year, we've received hundreds of thousands of dollars from the state around efforts to ensure safety, and so we have some requirements related to that, primarily around trauma-informed care. So we're on our way of, to making sure that all of our staff have that training. And then finally, the third thing that Chris mentioned was the funding sources and master plan and needs around our facilities. So again, I hope that you can hear there's alignment with what the district is doing, what the board is doing, what our educators are doing, really working all in line with one another. On this seventh item, Jeremiah will kind of go through a little bit more detail around our master planning 2.0 efforts. So I'm going to pass it to you, and then you can pass it to Julie after you're done. Thank you. Any questions about anything that I shared? No? Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about master planning, and the thing that's interesting about master planning is it doesn't mean we're doing something next year or in 2 years. As we continued the process, I went through some paperwork that I had from back in the 80s and 70s and was looking through, and I found the 1980-ish master plan. And on that plan included things like football lights and a soccer stadium and many things around the high school that wouldn't be achieved until the year 2003. So it's always good to be looking ahead and thinking about feasibility and big picture things just to make sure that we're considering all things now. And in 10 or 20 years, maybe those things change, but we continue to explore. So we've seen a lot of growth in our district around facilities. We've added almost 100,000 square feet of new building over the last few years, and that was due to a 2016 referendum. Prior to that, in about 2014-15, we brought together a citizen-led committee that looked at all of the district needs at the time, and that was called Master Planning 1.0. We got a lot of guidance around that time for a successful solution, which was to build Muskego Lakes Middle School, renovate Bay Lane, put an addition onto Mill Valley, do some upgrades to Lakeview's parking lot, and to close Muskego L and Test Corners. So we now celebrate over a full year in Muskego Lakes and Mill Valley and all those facilities. And we've taken buildings that were probably averaging 70 years old in the district, probably closer to 30 years old in the district. So really, we've made some big gains. During that time, the board also committed to some other projects while that was all happening. We built the Muskego High School pool, did a lot of upgrades to the athletic stadium, which included fundraised field turf, concession stands, restrooms, bleacher expansion, and press box expansion. This past summer, we did air conditioning at Lakeview Elementary, and we're continuing to look at ways to expand parking at the athletic complex near the football field. So a lot has been happening over the last few years, and it's been awesome to be a part of it. So as we continue to look at our Master Planning 2.0 efforts, we ground back to our original committee that we brought together back in 2014-15. Over $100 million of things were identified during that committee work. And we just anchor right back to it to look at where do we need to continue on that list. And most importantly, or most top of the feedback was renovations to our technical areas at Muskego High School, that being STEAM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math, and to continue to support the tech ed and automotive areas. So those were areas of the high school back in 2003 that were not renovated and maybe haven't been touched since the 70s or 80s. So those are areas that we continue to expand on and just look at feasibility and what can be done, and we'll show some potential images in a bit. We continue to look at expanding the band space at the high school. I think I can safely say we have the largest band in the state for a high school. When you get that whole band in the space, I'll show you a picture in a minute of what that's like. Along the line of career planning and nursing and academic medicine, looking at ways to integrate that into the facility as well. Potential athletic expansions and creating a gym space at Lakeview is still on the master plan. So these are all things that we continue to study and look at and determine the feasibility of. This is a picture that we've been working off of. This would be what a master plan is. So like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean any or all of it would get done, but what can go where and how would it work out? Just to really get input from staff and from the community, we put together a visual of what the school could look like. This particular wing is where our focus has been drawn to a lot, which is the STEM or STEAM area, the automotives, the technical education area. Also looking at down here potential practice facility or a weight room facility or indoor practice facility. With our climate here, a lot of school districts have gone to being able to practice indoors all the time during inclement weather. This is just an example. So we're studying what other districts are doing in the area. I believe this is in, where's that district there?
North High School in Sheboygan.
This is in Sheboygan. So this is an example of a 21st century fabrication shop, and this is where ours currently is. We did give the school board a tour about a month ago of our facilities, so everybody could kind of get a feel for what current state is. This is our auto shop, and this is some things that are happening, I believe,
West High School.
West High School. This is what we would consider, I guess, academic medicine. This is where our trainer meets and triages, and other school districts, I believe this is Slinger, have gone to a nursing program where they're training nurses in-house and giving that opportunity before kids are even leaving high school. This is our band room. This is what happens when we get the entire band together, which is a great thing, as well as storage. So looking at ways to potentially expand the current vessel that they're in, even without even putting an expansion onto the building, potentially removing some walls and just creating a larger space for the group. This is our cafeteria and our weight room. Not related, but looking at ways to potentially expand our cafeteria right now. It is pretty packed, but more so to potentially increase more academic time by reducing the amount of hours of lunch we have. So if we were able to expand and get more kids in there, we'd be able to have more time in the classrooms. So those are some things that we've been looking at. Our weight facility is great, but it has grown beyond just a football team facility. This is encompassing boys and girls sports all day long, and we become more and more conscientious of the ADA accessibility for students. Getting through this space can be tough. So this is just an average day in the cafeteria, average day after school in the weight room, and the weight room also overflows into the lower hallway here, which is an extension of the weight room. So as we looked at all these different things and we began to study what the original master planning team came up with, we wanted to get a pulse on how the community felt about the projects. We did send out a survey, I believe towards the end of last school year, just asking really the levels of support for certain projects. How does the community feel about these projects? Not really tying much price or timelines to them, but just where do they think we should focus our attention? And I would just draw attention to the STEAM area. The STEM academics really were well supported as far as people's perception of us continuing to move forward of looking at something for that area. So we asked all the other questions, both of staff and of community and staff that live in the community, and all those results are up here. So as you master plan things out, you need to make sure that you can actually do something with the space that you have. This is our existing lower level wing. If you looked out the windows right there, you would see what we're looking at here. So we looked at the potential of renovating our wood shop and automotives and really making a connection back to the cafeteria. The importance of this is right now, if any of us were to visit the shop area, it's down at the end of the football locker room hallway. It gets kind of dark and closed off before you even get into the space. For districts that are making investments in this, it's bright, open, and inviting. It's not just for the guys that want to go work on cars anymore. We like to think of engineering and all types of career opportunities that we want to give exposure to. So we looked at ways to connect to different various parts of the building, so you're not just entering it at some dark corner of the school. It would be an inviting place. So this is one potential option. This is a main real thoroughfare of where students come in the morning, so having that immediate exposure to all these careers would be an amazing thing. So we continue to look at ways of designing a space like this out. Any questions?
That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Jeremiah? Moving on to item 5, Treasurer's Report. Mr. Bowman.
On July 1st, 2018, the district's general fund balance was $18,628,246.52. Total unaudited general fund revenues for 2018-19 are $54,730,994.61, while total unaudited general fund expenditures are $55,963,592.21. On June 30th, 2019, the unaudited year-end general fund balance is $17,395,648.92. The fund balance represents 31.08% of expenditures and positively reflects the board's ongoing commitment to maintain a healthy fund balance. This will preclude the district from needing to short-term cash flow borrow for 2019-2020.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Moving on to item 6, new business. Item A, the annual budget hearing. The administration will provide an overview of the proposed budget for the year 2019 and 2020 school year. Following the presentation, residents are invited to comment on the budget and raise questions. Residents are requested to state their name and address prior to speaking. Mrs. Julie Kelly.
Thanks. Good evening. You are all very familiar faces, so thank you for coming again and supporting us. We're going to talk today about 2018-19. We'll do a short recap. We'll talk about the 19-20 budget development. And then as we're going through closing out one year, starting the next year, we're also looking forward at 2021. So we'll just touch on a little bit of that at the end. So as a reminder, if you want to go to your books on page 8, the budget development process starts with us finding out exactly what we are earning under the revenue cap. So again, we're capped at how much we are given by the state through state aid and taxes. And if you look at the bottom of page 8, you will see what our aid levy composition is. So you'll see that 56.2% of our revenue limit authority is given through state or through taxes, and 43.8% is through state aid. So what that means is for the municipalities of Muskego, the town of Norway, and then a little bit of New Berlin, when they look at our equalized valuations across the state in comparison to everyone else, we receive less support from the state because we're valued higher. So that equalized formula talks about trying to provide equal aid amongst all communities. And so this is kind of where our composition is made up. There is detail there about understanding the cap that you can read at your leisure. Things that affect the revenue limit do include our resident pupil count. This does include our summer school enrollment, also equalized valuations, and then our state equalization aid. On page 9, you will start to see our enrollment data laid out. In 2018-19, we actually had a decrease of about 42 resident students, but we did see an increase of 14 resident students this year. And then our summer school program, which is something that doesn't seem like it is of significant importance to the budget, but it really is, because for the hours that our students put in all the learning that takes place, we are able to count those hours for additional FTEs. So last year we were able to increase by 18 FTEs, and this year we had 34 additional FTEs. So we get about $10,200 per student per FTE, so that brings in significant money to our system to help us with operations throughout. And again, this graph just shows the resident enrollment trend. So you'll see we do have ups and downs, but for the most part we stay relatively consistent from year to year. Our equalized valuation, and again, this is something that's determined by the Department of Revenue. We really don't know what this number is going to be until October 1st, so we do estimate. And you'll see that in 2018-19, we had a 4.16% increase in equalized valuation, and in 19-20, our increase was actually 5.97%. So again, this is different than assessed valuation that municipalities look at, but this is the number that's used to determine, again, our balance of state aid versus tax revenue. And then looking at our state aid component of the revenue limit, so in 2018-19, again, the state equalization aid made up 36.3% of our budget, and it's the same for 19-20. And if you kind of go back to page 8 and you look at that number is different than the 43.8%, that's because there's more aid involved than just state equalization aid in that 43.8%. So again, we're remaining relatively consistent in what we're receiving. And on page 10, you can see historically where we've been state aid versus taxes. So again, relatively consistent. This is the breakout of our preliminary tax levy for 19-20. And again, we have different tax levy, pots of money. So our Fund 10, our general fund, is our general operations that take all of our operations of our system, including our special education budget. Our debt service fund, Fund 38, that is a fund where districts are allowed to borrow up to $1 million without going to referendum, so it's considered non-referendum debt. We're about to pay that off this year, so we will no longer have Fund 38 unless we look to use that fund for something in the future. Our debt service fund, this is our referendum debt, so this is the recent referendum that was passed, along with a little bit of debt, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about what's remaining in a future slide. And then our capital projects fund, Fund 41, the state allows us to put levy money in this fund to support capital projects through our system. If we choose not to use that capital projects fund, that money is then levied as a general operations. So those two in total make up one, pot of money that we can use. So again, if we didn't have that capital projects fund, that $750,000 would be levied in the general fund. So our total property tax levy is just over $32.2 million. And again, we are looking to decrease by a 0.20%, again being the 9th year in a row that the tax levy will decrease. And on page 11, just to give you an idea of the impact that the tax levy has had, we have historically looked at the same home in Muskego since 2004 and looked at the tax levy, the school district's portion of the tax levy and the impact that it has had on that home. So you can see, as we move through, that it has gone up and down, and you'll see in 2019 it's estimated to go up. However, property values in Muskego have increased, so that does have an impact again on that particular home. We went through that already. Open enrollment, and I apologize because this is back a little ways in the book on page 9, but our open enrollment, we can bring students into our system, and students also leave our system if they so choose. We had an increase of only 1 student in 18-19 and a decrease of 4 this year. We receive about $7,400 for open enrollment students. We have to be really careful when we're looking at open enrollment students coming in, that we're bringing in money, but we're not increasing staff to do so. Otherwise, we do lose from a financial perspective. So on page 9, you do see the trend. The black line is the open enrollment in, and the green line is our open enrollment students going out. So as long as we have more students coming in than going out, we are net positive, and we're in a good financial position. And then I just wanted to touch a little bit about fund balance, and most of you know because you've been here historically, but fund balance, again, is a point in time, June 30th, how much cash do we have in the bank? It's not a savings account. So when you look at, on page 14 in the booklet, our fund balance chart, you'll see, how much fund balance we have beginning and ending every year for the past 10 years. And again, we don't have this money sitting in a bank somewhere. We use it to support our cash flow. So as a system, we don't receive any state aid or taxes for the first 6 months of the year, and we do have to continue to operate, pay our bills and all of that. And so that fund balance is used to support those operations until we receive our first aid payment in December, and then again, our taxes starting in January. And again, here's just another look at what that looks like graphically. You'll see that the fund balance has increased over the years. In these past couple years, you'll see that it has decreased. And again, on page 14, you'll see that that was very specific board-approved use of fund balance. Again, we don't want to get in the practice of using that money for operational purposes because we'll have the same operational costs in the future and less money to support those. So they're very specific uses. For instance, the board committed $2 million out of fund balance to support the referendum projects if we so in fact needed it. And so that just gives you an example of what has been done in the past with the use of fund balance. So what to expect in 2019-20 moving forward, and again, as Dr. Thompson had talked about the eye and the goal and some of our goals that we have for the year, we want to continue to focus on being a district of choice, and so we always look at being a staff that has salaries and benefits that are at or above median. And so before the board approves salary increases, we always look at our comparables around the county or the region to make sure that we are remaining competitive from a staffing perspective. And again, looking at the master plan that Jeremiah had talked about, and now looking at how we can create a financial plan to support those projects now and in the future. The continued investment of our general operating funds for maintenance of current facilities. So again, you'll remember we put in the turf. Again, those were all donated funds. However, in 8 to 10 years, we're going to have to look at replacing. So the board has made a decision to start putting money into a fund that will help that replacement cost. And so we're building that now. And so we're not in a position in 8 to 10 years that we can't support the replacement of that turf. Again, the completion of the school safety grant and the trauma-informed training that was discussed. Also looking at parent satisfaction results. So we currently are at a 4.11. We want to increase to a 4.16. And in this area, we want to specifically look at one area, including transportation. So we switched bus companies this year. We've had a lot going on with transportation. And so we want to ensure that we are putting the right things in place to continue increasing satisfaction in that area and providing great service for our parents and students. Looking at developing a unified continuity plan for all departments and buildings. So in the event that something occurs, we have the ability to step up and make sure that we are on track and we have a plan in place to support anything that may go wrong for us. And just to touch a little bit on our district debt. So as we look at our master planning, we also have to be very mindful of the debt that we have in place. Again, we've seen consistently our tax levy going down, and we want to see that continue if possible. But we want to look at how we can support possible debt increases in the future if we ever needed it. So the board has done some specific refinancing of debt to pay debt off earlier than expected. And that has helped to allow us, for instance, to have the referendum move forward without increasing taxes. Lake Danoon debt was paid off in 2017-18, so that's a celebration for us. And then the Muskego High School debt will be paid off in 2021. So again, this is on your in your book on page 15. You can see what was left of the high school debt, as well as what's left for the most recent $43.18 million referendum. And that's laid out by year to show what our levy amounts are going to be in the tax rate. And then graphically, we show that our payments we've built so that we have consistent payments all the way to 2035, and then we will see a debt drop off when that debt is paid off. As far as our revenues, here's our infamous dollar bill. To give you an idea on pages 12 and 13, what our budget looks like if you were to take a dollar bill and split it into the different components. So again, looking at our property taxes, our equalization aid, and then you'll see that that makes up a majority of, nobody look this way because I'm going to use the laser pointer, majority of the dollar, and then we have some smaller amounts over here, and that's going to include open enrollment, any aid we get from the federal government, as well as grants and student fees, those types of things. So again, most of our budget is made up of property taxes and state aid. And then from an expense perspective, you'll see that a majority of our budget, again, we're over 75% of our budget, is made up of salary and benefits. So again, being very mindful of what we have in place so that we remain competitive, however, remain sound stewards. The non-capital, those are things like supplies, personal services, or all of our contracted services. We have our insurance, our workers' comp, and those types of things that make up the remaining portion. So again, majority of the budget for us, we're in the people business, is salary and benefits. Again, our total tax levy of just over $32 million, decreasing from last year, and that's the 9th year in a row that we'll see the tax levy decrease. So after this meeting, we got all of our numbers now, and those were all received after this book was created, so the board will approve the final budget and the final tax levy after 8 o'clock. And then as we look toward 2021, we will begin our budget development process in November. We look at using evidence-based and zero-based budgeting. So again, aligning our goals and mission and vision of our system to what we're actually utilizing our dollars for. So we never just roll the budget and expect things to remain the same. We're very specific with how we're allocating resources into the future. Our budget planning calendar will be posted on the website shortly after this meeting. Any questions? Yes. So the board hasn't approved salary increases, but CPI that we built the budget off of is a 2.44% increase. Mm-hmm. Yes, Mr. Petfalski. This is gonna be the hard one.
So on your that information chart,
Yes, yes.
you have a nice flat, payment schedule for our full debt going out to 2035.
Correct.
And in your presentation, you mentioned that will be started 2021. Why is there not a flip of that?
Because when we had the, built out the $43.18 million, you'll see in the green box on that page, after 2021, the levy amount increases from a $2.2 million levy to a 3.4. So as we looked at the debt that existed and we built in the 43 million, we built in additional levy at that time to keep it as consistent as possible. The board, if they so wanted to, could look at if we have opportunities to pay down debt, could look at that and levy more, pay down more principal in a certain year if we are afforded that option, and then that would create a cliff in the future.
The other question I have is under Fund 80.
Yes.
Limited on what we expect Fund 80 on, however, otherwise, we've recently this year shifted all the costs of the SROs to the school district. There was a substantial increase in the SROs.
We did see an increase, yes.
Would it be, as a district, under Fund 80,
So, yes, President Buckmaster had asked that question. We did, it's not that you can't do it that way, we could. There's no specific DPI authority to say, yes, you can use it, or no, you can't. Some districts are using it, however, they are saying that any expense in Fund 80 has to be used and open to the public as a whole. And so if the community resource officer is specifically in our schools, they're not technically working for the community as a whole. There's like an if-then flow chart.
So if there's disaster in the city, you don't think they would be called out?
They would be, and that's an argument that we would use. So we are not looking at putting it in for this year, but we are strongly looking at it for next year as an option in Fund 80. Mhm.
We're good?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. All right, moving on. Item 6B, clerk's report. Mr. Schrader.
Yes, for 2019-2020 budgeted general operations revenue are $59,323,915, and the budgeted general operations expenditures are $59,323,915, thus representing a proposed balanced budget. The tax levy projections based on the proposed budget is as follows. General Fund, Fund 10, $27,022,035. Debt Service Fund, Fund 38, $85,436. Debt Service Fund, Fund 39, $4,350,116. $4,350,116. Capital Projects Fund, Fund 41, $750,000. Total property tax levy, $32,207,587. And that concludes the clerk's report.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader. Item 6C, establishment of Capital Expansion Fund 41.
A motion to vote a tax in the amount of $750,000 for the Capital Expansion Fund for the purpose of financing capital expenditures at various district buildings and sites. Now therefore be it resolved by the electors of the Muskego Norway School District, Racine and Waukesha County, Wisconsin, that a tax be levied in the amount of $750,000 to create a capital expansion fund for the purpose of financing capital expenditures at various district buildings and sites.
So at this point, a motion is in order, and
So moved.
yes, we do.
Rick Petfolsky, W194S8184.
I'm good, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Professor. Is there a second? Please.
Jim Brownwell, W173, South 7955, Scenic Drive. I second.
Thanks, Jim. All right, any discussion?
Jamie, we have names and addresses for everybody here, so we'll get those to you.
I figured.
Is this outside the after
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6D, approval of tax levy.
Following the discussions of the public hearing, a call for adoption of the levy is made. The following motion would be in order. Be it resolved that the tax for the general district operations in the amount of $27,022,035, debt service in the amount of $4,435,552, capital expansion in the amount of $750,000, for a total combined amount of $32,207,587 be levied on all property, real and personal, which is taxable under state tax laws within the Muskego Norway School District for the purpose of financing the operations of the public schools of the school district for the year 2019-2020 pursuant to the budget for the year as presented at the annual meeting.
A motion is in order.
Debbie Brownlow, W173, S7955, Scenic Drive. I so move as read.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Lisa Warwick, long address, like everybody else in Muskegon.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 6E, board salaries.
It is up to the citizens voting at the annual meeting to determine what the board salaries will be for the 2019-2020 school year. Currently, the board members receive a salary of $4,698 per year, and the president receives $5,107 per year. A motion is in order, and you can continue and finish that as you will.
All right, so we budgeted for staff increases of 20%. So I would make a motion to increase the board member's salary to $4,813, which is roughly the same as the staff budgeted amount that you have right now. And also to increase the board president's by $1,000 over that. I've done that job. It's worth more than the $20 a week difference between the two pay. So my theory is it should be at least $1,000 difference between the regular board member and what the president receives. So my motion is $48.13 for board members, $58.13 for the board president.
Is there a second?
Jim Brownwell, I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Brownlow. All right, any discussion?
I'd just like to mention that the salaries are not commensurate with the duties. The board does wonderful work. It's woefully low for all the service that you perform. Thank you. I'm actually quite disappointed that there's not more members of the public here just to show their support for the district and their interest in what's being done in their district. As has been pointed out, you have a few members of the public here tonight, none of which I think have students anymore in the district. So thank you for the work you're doing. Again, this is just a small token of our appreciation for the work you do.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? You bastard. Okay, hearing no further comment or discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 6F, payment of actual and necessary expenses.
It is also up to the citizens voting at the annual meeting to authorize the payment of actual and necessary expenses of school board members when traveling outside the district. A motion is in order that the electors of the Muskego Norway School District authorize the payment of actual and necessary expenses of the school board members when traveling outside the school district in the performance of their actual duties.
This amounts to a very minimal amount, but a motion is in order. Mr. Pefalski,
Second, Debbie Brownlaw.
thank you very much. Any discussion?
So if we want to approve this, you guys just talk about reimburse, right?
Right. Thank you, Rick.
Any idea how much that amounts to per year?
Does anyone ever?
I don't know if we even turn our expenses in, we just, so,
Probably in the area
for
at the
conferences or-
highest, probably $500 to $1,000.
I would say that's probably accurate. I think there's one conference that most of you go to, and then
It's pretty minimal.
It's pretty
Most of us just absorb it, so. Any other comments? Discussion? Okay, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Moving on, item 6G, 2020 annual meeting date and time.
An additional responsibility of the citizens voting at the annual meeting is to authorize the establishment of a date and time for the next annual meeting. A motion is in order that the electors of the Muskego Norway School District authorize the school board to establish a date and time for the next annual meeting, such meeting to be held between the period of May 15, 2020 and October 31, 2020, with appropriate advance notice to the electors in accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 120.08. The probable date would be October 26th, which is a Monday.
The last Monday of October.
Correct.
Which is what we traditionally do.
Is there a second?
Lisa Warwick, second.
Thank you, Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6H, other business.
Disposal of surplus property. Board Policy 7310, disposal of surplus property, directs the disposal of obsolete equipment. A motion is in order that the electors of the Muskego Norway School District authorize the disposal of equipment per board policy.
Motion is in order.
So moved.
Mr. Pefalski? A second?
Jim Brown, second.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. The next item is item 7, adjournment. But before that, for those of you in the audience who don't have school or children in the district, thank you very much for coming. Those of you who are regulars here, thank you for your service as teachers, your service as aldermen, your service as past school board members. Thank you very, very much for showing up here tonight. Having no other business before this annual meeting, a motion is in order to adjourn.
a motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So we will skip the, obviously, the closed session.